Before we get to today's show, I just want to talk about Stamps.com. Getting your mailing and your shipping done can seem like a no-win situation. Going to the post office takes a valuable time. Leasing a postage meter, that's expensive. Well, luckily I know a better way, Stamps.com. You can buy and print your own official U.S. postage for any letter or any package. It's more powerful than a postage meter. You can avoid those time-consuming trips to the post office. And I personally use Stamps.com. And actually, you could too if you listen to the BS report, which you obviously do because you're listening to this. If you use the promo code BS for this special no-risk trial, it is a $110 bonus offer. It includes a digital scale, up to $55 of free postage. All you have to do is go to Stamps.com, click on the microphone at the top of the homepage, and type in BS. Stamps.com. Check it out.
The BS Report is a free-flowing conversation that occasionally touches on mature subjects. The BS Report. The BS Report with Bill Simmons.
Welcome to the second episode of Bill Don't Lie. Ryen Russillo in town.
Yeah, it's a bit of a surprise, I guess, for both of us, but it worked out.
Great.
Yeah.
I saw your name on Craigslist. We were shopping for the same. No. Actually, we were emailing, and you said you were here, and I was like, oh, this is perfect. This is not a BS Report. Officially, next week, Bill Don't Lie will have its own iTunes and artwork and all that stuff. It will not be a BS Report, but right now we're running it on the BS Report.
Really?
I know it's confusing.
If you think about the titles, there's the complete opposites. It's pretty clever by you.
Well, it was almost NBA holes, but then it was Bill Don't Lie.
Under the Grantland thing, because Disney, you know.
Well, yeah, but with the BS Report and NBA holes, it makes it sound like I have a poop fetish or something. So
yeah,
I feel good about
Germans do.
Germans have poop fetish, and people from Florida.
Right. I don't know if you've read the Michael Lewis book, but they talk a lot about that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Germans.
Yeah, that's really weird. A lot of their terminology is based on poop and poop history. I think it's Boomerang. It's a really good book.
Dirk Nowitzki. I'll have to ask him next time I have him in the BS
Yeah,
Report.
no, there's all sorts of. I think they have more sayings for it than any other country.
So we're taping this on a Monday afternoon, 7 o'clock Eastern time. So I hope nothing happens in the NBA tonight that'll render one of these points irrelevant. But we were going to talk about the West first.
It's insane. I mean, this isn't anything new.
But hold on, hot take. Is it that insane?
Yes. Think about how many teams are there.
Even that good? What about Oklahoma City if Ibaka misses the rest of the season and Durant? Like, are these teams even that good?
Okay, I think that if the Oklahoma City thing, which it's pointless for me to say if it all works out, because at this point it's almost never worked out for them heading into the playoffs. Dallas, I think, does some things really well. Obviously, the offense has been different now since they've tried to figure out the Rondo thing, which has been a disaster. But I do think when you look at the competitiveness, and I guess I always look at this from the radio topic thing, right? Where we do this thing with guys that are stars and faces of franchises where if they don't go far in the playoffs, and Chris Paul's the poster boy for this, you start doing the what's wrong with Chris Paul. Yeah. Say the Spurs come out of the West. I'm not ready to say that yet, but the Tony Parker stuff looks better now in the last few weeks.
It does.
If Golden State doesn't come out, it's going to go, you can't win that way. I mean, people still can't believe that they're the best defensive team in the NBA. People refuse to even look it up. And they're like, no, this is 2 years now. If Memphis doesn't get out, well, do they really score enough? It'll be, Harden, they shoot a lot of threes, but no, that doesn't work. And then you
Dork
have the
Elvis is regular season only.
Right, yeah. Exactly. So what'll happen is you'll have like 4 or 5 different storylines talking about the failures of how these teams are built. And what I would argue is that you just have to look at it differently, that's how special this West is, potentially, with this many teams that could lose in first-round matchups.
Yeah, I'm still crossing on Portland. I know they won a couple without Wesley Matthews, but I just don't think they can win 3 straight playoff series without Wesley Matthews.
He's their tough guy. And every one of those teams kind of has one. That's what Draymond Green is to the Warriors.
Yeah.
And you talk about
Jay Crowder to the Celtics.
Exactly. He'll mix it up with anybody.
Can I ask you a serious question?
Yes.
Is this starting to remind you of the 2001 Pats at all?
No.
Not at all?
I can't believe they're this close to the playoffs.
Brad Stevens, Bill Belichick, Isaiah Thomas, Tom Brady, Brandon Bass, Antoine Smith.
I think they let Thomas do more than Brady did on that 2001 Pats team.
Tyler Zeller.
Come on.
Ty Law. No. They're both named Ty.
Who's Jermaine Wiggins?
Phil Pressey?
Maybe. I liked Pressey. I saw him in practice once when I went to Mizzou.
Evan Turner, David Givensy a little bit, maybe?
No.
David Patton?
Givens had a great first down ratio of catches.
I don't even think David Givens was on that team. Who were the receivers in that team?
Yeah, Givens was a little bit later. Troy Brown was on it.
Oh, Troy Brown.
David Patton.
So maybe Isaiah Thomas is the Troy Brown.
That makes a little bit more sense because Troy was. I remember that Pittsburgh game. He was everything.
Okay, so fine. Marcus Smart is Tom Brady. First year starters. Everyone counting him out.
Yeah, they got to go on. The run has been nice recently. I couldn't even watch Celtics games. There was about a month and a half there where I just went, you know what? I just can't do it anymore.
Really?
I can't because it's.
I never gave up.
I know you have.
I love Brad Stevens.
I'm with you.
At
He's
the very
awesome.
least, like the plays out of the timeouts were always made the Celtics worth watching.
Right, the Marcus Smart play the other day. I was watching him the other night. I go, there's not one guy on this Celtics team. This would be hard to do. Be like, I'm going to be a GM and I'm going to put together a team that has almost no one you'd want to start on a good team.
It's all 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th men.
Right, and
literally.
I'm not knocking Ainge because we all get the big picture here and the plan. I have more of a problem with the league in that the Celtics have had, I think, 39 guys on the roster in the last 2 years, and there's all these insane trades where nobody knows who anybody is as far as the moving parts, and most of the teams don't even want 80% of the names. This is a thing where I could just go on a rant. We've all accepted that the salaries have to match up to a certain point. Just make it easier. Who cares? If you want to trade Garnett for a first-round pick, just let them do it. But that's another rant altogether. But the Celtics have
so you would get rid of the 75% within the salary roll?
Yeah.
You would change it to like 50%?
I'd change it to 0%. Why?
Change it to 0%?
Why? It's only set up so the owners don't have to pay more.
So
if the Clippers,
I never really thought. I'm so used to this world.
We've accepted it, right? And I argue with guys in our hallways about it, and they're like, "No, it doesn't work that way." I'm like, I'm not just a guy here. Like, this is stuff we've all studied. Why can't they just do that? Why
That's interesting because, like, in my trade value column, which part 2 is running on Tuesday,
I've destroyed your whole world.
Part 3 is running Tuesday. Well, it always the rule is for one day you can make any trade, but maybe that's just how it should be.
Why? Why can't it be that way? Is it because, I honestly think it was set up so that you wouldn't have, Cuban when he first came in and everybody was freaked out. Oh, he's just going to have $100-something million payroll. Somebody's going to have Portland again. If you're the owner and you want to take on the money and you have the cap space, especially with everything that's happening, why shouldn't you just be able to? Why can't you just trade a young rookie guy that maybe he's a 20th pick as a role guy to a team with a veteran? I just always use Garnett as that example. Plenty of teams would have liked to trade for Garnett. The Clippers would have loved, but they had nothing to give up. So, not saying they have any picks left because that's obviously going to Boston. But just in the future, if they had a first rounder, they go, we'll just throw you a first rounder.
Where the Celtics have to sign Keith Bogans for a year for $5 million just to make the trade work?
Right. When you have, if you go through all the Celtics trades in the last 12 months, look at the names. And this year, I think it was at one stretch 8 of the guys. I think only I think Jay Crowder's one of the only guys. Brandon Wright. They didn't even want him.
They won the Rondo trade, just Jay Crowder for Rondo, straight up. What were the odds of that?
Not high.
Would you rather have Jay Crowder or Rondo? I'd rather have Jay Crowder. What the hell is going on?
No, and look, I think if we're going to do a little Celtics thing, Bass would play in a good team. You'd want him. You'd want.
But you were saying how they didn't have anyone who could start. They shot Bass for 3 months and nobody wanted him. And I'm sitting there going, great teammate. Can come off the bench, can guard 2 positions, has
can hit
played
that
in big
shot.
games.
You can trust him to hit a shot.
He's a great 18-foot shooter. Why wouldn't teams want him?
Some Celtics fans got upset when I sent out a tweet saying this is remarkable that it's basically all role players, but there are 5 or 6 guys that would play minutes. Yeah, they're just, and Marcus Smart's the most valuable guy because we don't know what he can't do yet.
You haven't watched Tyler Zeller lately.
No, Zeller.
He might be a max guy.
Yeah, when is he going to opt out?
He might have to. He's got $80 million waiting for him. No, they have more guys who would be really helpful bench guys for a good team, but that's their entire team than any team I've ever seen in my life. They have literally 9 role players, that's their rotation.
If you had a 3-year plan of saying we just want rotation guys, it'd be hard to pull off what Ainge has pulled off.
I said to my dad was here this week, and I said to my dad, I was like, we're right there. We just need a franchise guy and a second best guy.
Yeah,
we have all the other guys.
2 top 10 players, they'll be rolling.
That's it. That's all we need.
I also wonder, Ainge, knowing him over the years, he was always the guy who would rather trade for a player than wait for free agency. And it's a good theory. And his theory goes, at least I know exactly what I'm getting, as opposed to having tickets to something I may not know if I'm going to get into. And with the Celtics, I know it's shocking to us that it's not a destination city.
Right. But the good news is at least they're fun to watch now. Isaiah Thomas has made them fun to watch.
Right. And Thomas is a starter on a team.
Yeah,
but I think
the crowds have been good, though.
Yeah. Look, that fan base through some of the thin years has always been pretty remarkable.
If they beat Philly tonight, which I think they will, and they win in Oklahoma City on Wednesday night.
So you're really doing this.
Oh, I've been scoreboard watching for like 3 weeks. I was on my iPhone at a Kings game.
So you want them in the playoffs?
100%.
But this is
what's the difference between the 10th pick and the 15th pick? What are they going to make or break the franchise? I want these guys to be in the playoffs.
Justice Winslow or a European? They don't take Europeans.
Like we did this thing in South by Southwest with Ibaka. He premiered this film that's going to end up on Grail a week from now. And spent time with him on a podcast, spent time at the thing, and then spent time with him. I really liked him, but way more basketball sophisticated than I was prepared for. Like he could be on like a studio show, like talking about stuff. But he was saying how like that 2012 finals, which they're all like kind of bitter about because they were right there the first 4 games, and he was just like,
right. That's the closest 5-game series.
Yeah, they got blown out in game 5, but the first 4 were like each game was one play. And I'm not going to do his accent, but he was basically saying like,
you don't want to try.
He's like, we did not have the experience yet. We just did not know what to do at the end of the game.
He was actually pretty bad defensively in that series.
Yeah, all of them. Harden had deer in the headlights. Durant made a big mistake, I think, in game 1, but like they didn't know yet. And from that finals, it was like, okay, we lived through that. Here's what we learned. And I think even if the Celtics, they play Atlanta in round 1, they take them to 6, and Marcus Smart learns 3 things, and that's a good thing for them.
See, you've always been a big fan of the playoff experience carrying over. More so than I am when I know you have no shot to do anything in the playoffs.
I just think it's good to get reps in anything. And I mean, both of us have had that experience, right? Like the more you do anything, you're going to get better at it. And for that team and for Stevens, I also think Stevens is a freaking Jedi.
He's awesome.
I think he's an amazing coach. Like they traded Rondo and Jeff Green and got better. That makes no sense whatsoever. They gutted the team.
No, and to see them, I can't believe we're doing this much Celtics, although I should
love
be
it.
too shy.
I can't do enough. Everyone in Grantland's making fun of me.
But you see bad teams around the league every year, and you go, these guys haven't cared about a game in 30, 40 games.
Denver was like that before Shaw got fired.
I saw a Denver game live against the Pacers.
Oh, God. Mail-in.
Yeah, and it was a disgusting game. I don't even know if it totaled 160. But when I watch the Celtics, I go, this is – and I took a month off from them. But watching him now, again, this run has been good. You just see that Stevens, and that's why I get a 6-year deal, because we're gutting this thing. We're going to try to figure it out. And the team made a 6-year commitment to him, and they have a heck of a coach. It just has to mean one of those draft picks has to hit. But I also could see the Celtics doing the thing a year ahead of time where they go, if we have money now, let's go ahead and do it. Because 2016,
they're going to go hard after Kevin Love.
Right, and I think that
they'll get creative with Kawhi potentially.
And all these teams that are going to sit around going 2016, that probably puts you in a pool of more potential losses. If everybody's doing it and everybody has the bump in cap space, then I think Ainge is the kind of guy that says, let's just do this a year ahead of everybody else instead of competing with LA and New York.
Tobias Harris, I like a lot.
I like
you're
Harris.
Looking at all those type of guys where you overpay them a little bit to try to get them because you have the cap space.
The overpaying thing is something I know that kind of drives us crazy because it's just the demand. It's just what it is. So if you're a smart front office and you say, okay, this guy's worth $12 million a year, so we're not going over 12. Well, that means you're not going to get him. Yep. So are you smarter because you didn't spend $3 extra million a year? Because now it means you're not going to be able to get anybody, and that's why the market's so screwed up.
If you're buying a car right now, let's say you want to get a sports car, you're going to buy like a BMW or something. You're going to pay like $60,000. But you also know that if you just wait 4 months and somebody's going to return the car, they're not going to like it, or they didn't use it for a year, you could get the same car for like $40,000. But there's something about the new car, and the same thing is with free agency.
Absolutely, right.
Teams are like, I really need a forward. Tobias Harris, here's $80 million. Take it.
Reggie Jackson at $15 million a year.
That ship sailed though.
Right, but I'm just saying, like that was the stuff that's being floated out there, and I couldn't believe Draymond's terrific, but
Draymond's getting the max.
He's going to get, and you go, wow, he's going to get the max. I think Golden State's going to go ahead.
Do you think Jay Crowder will get the max if the Celtics make the finals? I think he will.
Yeah,
I actually think he'll be like the Draymond alternative.
I could see that. I could definitely see that happen. They may petition the league for a 6th year.
The crazy thing about the Celtics is they blew the 6th year. The crazy thing is they blew so many games those first 2 months. Like they really should be over 500. How many games did they lose in the last minute? Because Rondo had no idea what to do in crunch time because he can't get to the line or shoot threes, which all of us knew, but we didn't want to admit.
No, I admitted it.
You did? I didn't want to admit it. I love Rondo.
Right. See, I was
like, no, he's going to be fine. He's just got to feel his knee out.
Remember, though, I was the guy living in Boston when they were making the championship run going, Pierce is great, but he's not top 5. And everybody freaks out. Okay. And Rondo was always really good, and he was
Yeah.
always an acquired kind of taste. You had to watch him to really understand the impact you have on games. But I don't know what he had been doing the last few years. He wasn't playing any defense, and then admitted it after everybody would argue with you about it when you go, this guy's not playing defense anymore.
Yeah.
And then he went on these stretches of just, I'm going to pass for a week straight.
Beefing up the assist
Right.
totals. Yeah.
Oh, national, we're the noon ABC? Okay, I'm gonna try to get 15 dimes tonight.
He had high impact performances that really resonated with
The
people.
Chicago playoff series.
Yeah, but they forgot like some of the other low impact performances, like when the team lost in Game 7 to the Magic in 2009 because
That's
Rondo
the
showed up
series.
40 minutes before the game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he had a bad series. I believe
He
I don't
showed
know
up
if he-
late twice in that series.
Okay.
For games.
When you get to hear something like that, like how bad do you want to talk about it in the moment, or did you only hear about Rondo showing up late?
No,
after the fact?
I heard about that when it happened. It was two different times.
So-
two.
so
One of
did
them
you
was
get any more of
public,
the
other one
backstory?
wasn't. Well, they wanted to trade him that summer because he screwed the guys were mad at him.
Now, do you have any idea why he was late or anything like that, or is it just he was late?
Traffic or whatever. I think he was going through. It was like that younger brother in the family with the older brother starting to act out a little bit. He's kind of, especially after the Chicago series, start to feel like this is becoming my team a little bit. But
Well,
you have all these
yeah.
old veterans who are just like, no, it's our team. Go away, little brother.
He has no idea how lucky he was, though, that he was with stars
Luckiest.
that didn't care anymore, that just would kind of laugh at him like the younger brother because they had already been through it all. They all had their reps. They were trying to get a ring. Whereas if you put Rondo with younger stars, that would have been a disaster. But I was hoping for something more salacious. I'd been told once
Oh,
that
let's hear it.
Ricky Davis was supposed to show up to something in Miami for some event. Was
Yeah.
actually supposed to show up to an event. It was part of the team thing. We're going, this is a big deal. You got to show up to this. And he goes, no, it's not happening. I put like 30 grand down on a yacht for a party, and I'm not missing that. I can't get
the
that
best.
deposit back. So he was out on whatever they were supposed to do.
That's when people are studying Paul Pierce's career stats. And they notice like this weird, inexplicable swoon during the time when Ricky Davis passed through his life. It wasn't an accident. But
No.
back to Ainge and the assets thing. And I swear we're going to circle this back to the West
promise?
at some point. But you were like, I don't know what Ainge is doing. I actually think I do know what Ainge is doing. He is always about, he makes trades, and he's always about, am I getting the better asset in the trade? Because he's like, until they have a really good team.
Did I say I don't know what he's doing?
No, you were like, it's some people. No, you said people can't figure out what
Right.
Ainge is doing sometimes. Because
Yeah.
he just seems like he's making these trades. It's
Because I
like-
don't want to ever make it sound like I'm criticizing.
No, you
here,
were not
'cause
criticizing.
I totally get what he's doing. I totally
But
get what he's
people
doing.
got confused where you would trade Jeff Green for a first round pick, but then you would trade a first round pick for Isaiah Thomas. And I got in those emails. People are like, "What the hell is that? Which way are we going?" And it's like, I just think they look at it like assets.
Yeah, Thomas is a
They
guy on a
just
good
weigh
contract.
scale. Yeah, and they're like, we like this Isaiah Thomas more than this pick. Trade. We like this pick more than Jeff Green. Trade. And
Right.
that's how they're putting the team together, which I really respect. And I think Belichick is the same way. Where Belichick, the pattern of his decisions after all these years, we know now. He's like, clearly he thought Vince Wilfork was done. Cut him. Could have had him back for $5 million a year. No thanks. And what are the odds of Vince Wilfork being good next year? Because Belichick, when he cuts the cord, he's always right.
You're right.
We've
Think
watched
about
it
the
for
Richard
15
Seymour
years.
deal.
All these guys.
Seymour was a first round pick. to
Willie
the Raiders.
McGinnis, all these guys. It's like when he cuts the cord, they're never the same.
I do worry about Belichick drafting corners, though. He's had a tough
Checkered
run of
history.
that.
Corners
Yeah.
and wide receivers.
Yeah, and the Revis thing allowed him to do things last year that he just hasn't been able to do on defense in such a long time. But it was funny how the Revis thing kept playing out, and this actually can transition into the Kevin Love discussion that I know we want to have. But when I say we do this thing, I'm talking about all of us, right?
Yeah,
okay, all of us, and how we try to think like that person. And you go, Revis, okay, he got all those contract extensions. He got the more guaranteed money. I mean, that thing with the Jets was a nightmare his first few years in the league. I mean,
Yep.
every year, you're like, come on with this guy. Then he gets the guaranteed money. Then he goes to Tampa, which is an oddly structured contract because it was 1 year guarantees, basically. And then he gets a
Well, he had
taste of
the
winning.
ACL
Right.
injury. Yeah.
Then he gets a taste of winning with New England. And you start going, okay, he's been through it all before, so now that he knows what it's like to win, this is the most important thing to him. And then I remember started to think about it. You go, wait a minute, Woody Johnson, who loves his toys with the Jets, his guy just won a title with his most hated rival, and now Revis does have a ring. So why is he going to do some kind of Belichick-type discount, some oddly structured contract to make it all work? And the more you start thinking about it, you're going, they're going to cut him such a huge check, he is going to be right back to the Jets. And that's why I think the Kevin Love stuff that we've kind of talked about a little bit, and that what's the scenario, how does the storyline change depending on what they do this year? And I just see a guy that's still in his prime getting benched in the fourth quarter. And even though everything I've heard from Cleveland over the years, the last year more importantly, has been pretty much on point, they seem to think he's coming back. And I'm not hearing that he's not coming back. I just see the situation and go, why would he come back?
Well, and also he's not going to say anything to anybody if he wasn't coming back. But the Revis thing, he signed for $12 million. It's a freaking bargain. Belichick, of course, he was going to sign him for $12 million for 1 year, basically.
That's the only way Revis is on that team,
right?
Because
if Revis had said, "I want $20 million for 1 year," Belichick has this internal thing in his head of what everyone's worth, and if it goes 1 cent over, he's out. Oh, see ya. I'll do better somewhere else. And it's like they got rid of 5 starters. Shane Vereen, who had 11 catches in the Super Bowl, who seemed like he was really a valuable security blanket,
big piece
on pace to be the new Kevin Falk. Giants come in with some contract. Belichick's like, you're out. So he's just always going to be that way. But the Revis thing, I agree with you. I think people forget this. You win a title, it's gravy after that. You just want to win a ring. You don't want to know. I mean, you might want to win 4 rings. You might want to be wired like Tim Duncan or somebody.
Yeah, and if you're the quarterback or you're the face of something,
yeah,
I get it a little
like
bit more.
It's like part of legacy. But
if you're a corner,
yeah,
and I think he's the best corner in the league.
He won. If let's say there was the Emmys for radio, and
do they have those? I don't think they do.
God, it would be a lot of white guys at the banquet, though. It'd just be a lot of white guys in bad jackets. And a lot of bad breath.
Yeah, I'm like, man, I got to get out of this.
A lot of bad breath, just people with chicken wing finger on them. But let's say you won the Emmy Oscars for sports radio. This prestigious thing. You've been building your whole life toward being on that show, and you win it. And then ESPN's like, so discount again? And
right.
You're like, no, actually, I'm good. I won my award.
And now
I'm actually done with discounts. I'd actually like to sign for the most money now.
Yeah, what if they came down and they go, Simmons wants to trade you for Summer Sanders? And then I go,
Summer Sanders.
Like, Bill really thinks we get her rolling again, and we're going to move you out.
Wow, Summer Sanders.
Yeah, I was trying to
Did not expect her to be mentioned in this one.
Good. Huge for a brand.
But anyway, I fully supported Revis. He helped win the Super Bowl. We had him in a great deal. He left. Great. Kick his ass in the Jets now. Kevin Love, so you think that means if they won the title, he's more likely to leave, or he's less likely?
I don't know. I don't know. I think that it's presented that way where you go, well, if he wins and he sees that he has a core here and he can do all these things, the numbers are still okay. But when you see somebody that was supposed to be, I mean, guys are arguing he was a top 5 player in the league, and he's getting benched. I don't know that there's a win-lose scenario where he goes, well, I won, so I want to stay with this core, or I won, so now let me move on. I think he sees himself going, why am I on the bench for some of these games? I can't do this. I'm a top guy. I'm supposed to be a face kind of guy.
Well, we should also mention just how unprecedented that is for the NBA. I've been watching the NBA for 40 years. This was a guy who was one of the 10 best players in the league last year, who put up a 26-13. In a 30-team league, he's one of the best 10 guys. And they benched him multiple times in crunch time. And that's like, I guess like the only parallel I can think is Phoenix in the 93 finals. They benched Kevin Johnson a couple times because he had was a Section 8 in that series. They put Frank Johnson in. Other than that, I don't even remember a parallel.
And I would think
he's not one of the best 5 players they can put out in crunch time.
Now, I understand. And defensively, the crazy thing with Cleveland on this tear now is defensively, they're still not that good. When you look at some of their efficiency numbers, they're still a lot lower than you would think for a team that could win a title, but I'm not writing them off. I just feel like the Kevin Love thing and all the stuff that happened this offseason, it was so packaged. And I don't blame LeBron and his guys for orchestrating this stuff. I mean, I know you make the LeBron, the GM jokes, but if you can get LeBron and you can have a good team, then maybe we're in this new world of this is kind of what you do. I know people don't really like it. But it was always that it was the understanding, well, if you're giving up these assets for Love, he's on board after the contract's up because we have a core guy.
You can't do the Joe Smith, Glenn Taylor thing either.
No, I'm not saying that would happen.
Yeah. I'm sure there was wink, wink. Hey, if it works out, obviously we take care of you. But I don't think
you have to have that call, right?
Yeah.
If you're Cleveland, you have to have the call with Love and his guys going, if we're going to move Wiggins, okay, and technically another number 1 pick in Bennett, but that's not going to mean anything. What
the
are you going to know?
Pick was a legit pick. That was
Yeah.
the Miami pick.
No, I meant Anthony Bennett.
No, I'm just saying, like, they gave up because now Love for Wiggins, you'd get laughed out of the room. Like, just 1-for-1 would have no chance.
Right.
It's funny how wrong we were about Wiggins.
Well, you didn't like him at all?
No, but I liked him. I thought this is what we do at draft when you have loaded talents like that. It's like it's going to be 70% they make it, 30% they don't, or 80-20. And I think the higher you can get with the percentages, the better I feel. And I think Jabari for me was 100%. I know he can be a 20-point scorer.
See, I changed my mind on those two guys a lot during the course of the season.
I did
because
too.
I think Jabari was the better basketball player, was more polished, and Wiggins we all knew athletically.
Better, like he had a better feel. It just seemed like I've seen him
was the
succeed
better basketball
before.
player.
Wiggins drifted, and I'd watch games where I didn't know he was out there for 7 minutes, and that to me scared me. But then seeing him 2 months into the NBA season, you'd be like, oh, okay.
All you'd have to see is really movement. And
he's quick.
A couple weeks in, I go, all right. And I thought Cleveland was going to take him number one as we get close to it. And I thought, all right, I get it. But
he had the highest ceiling.
Yeah, but if you look back and think of all, guys like us that just love the draft, if you think back of all the mistakes you've made, you usually make the mistake because you just go, that guy's such a freak athletically.
Right.
And the thing is Wiggins is a much better student of the game than you realize, because you're only talking about a guy that's 1 year out of Canadian high school, and actually he could have been a senior in high school last year.
He also had some NBA ready stuff, right? His defense was really good in college.
Yeah, the great thing
he
about
could post up from time to time in college, which I was like, wow, this guy's posting up people already.
When you think about when rookies get benched, it's usually because they can't play any defense. And
yes.
You go, if Wiggins' offense is behind, well, it's not going to matter as much because he can go out there and guard guys. And you see him switch. There was that Clippers game where he got switched on the Paul a few times. His footwork's just great. He's just great.
And he has a couple moves in the lane were just beautiful spin moves that are way ahead of what his age is. And he was a little bit of a hard dribble, 1-2 dribble guy, and then the kind of step back jumper that people didn't really love. But the thing we can kind of forget sometimes is when you go to be a pro and you care and you just get to work on all that stuff and refine it, where you don't get to do that as much in college. Like, it's pretty clear with him, the light is clicked. And by the way, you should never be getting benched in the T-Wolves, no matter how bad you are. So he was never in a spot once the trade went through, you had to worry about minutes, especially with other injuries. One other great thing happened to him, though, and I haven't heard anybody mention this. Cleveland gave up on him. Actually a good thing. That's a little light under the old ass, It's like, hey, cool, we're getting LeBron. This is great. Now, actually, you're not going to be a part of it. He didn't want to play with you. That's good. That happened at the right point of his life. I also thought he really handled those 6 weeks with the right level of class and kind of dignity, Like, he was twisting in the wind. He's doing press conferences for Panini, whether he's wearing a Cavs jersey, but we think he's going to get traded. And
yeah, that went on for a little while
really
there.
Did.
And it was the kind of thing where it wasn't a what if, it's when is this going to be announced.
It felt like a character builder a little bit, though.
Yeah, and he handled it really well. Minnesota, of course, took a dig at Kevin Love.
Yeah, I know.
Because they had to. They go, he's going to be here forever. His family's moving up.
Do you think, like, I do think and I'm writing about this in the trade value a little bit, but the minutes LeBron has played, because he's over 40,000 minutes now, there's really no track record of anybody being good at 50,000 minutes. Like, once you hit that number, it's over. And I do wonder if LeBron saw, like, that was like a we have to win now trade.
Right, but I don't think
you keep Wiggins.
Okay, but it's easy to say that now after we've seen Wiggins. But if you're LeBron,
No, I wrote it at the time. I thought they should have kept Wiggins. I think that Wiggins for Love trade would have been there in February. They weren't getting a better offer than that in Minnesota, and I would have made sure Wiggins wasn't a superstar. And now, what if they get him in camp for a month, and it's like, oh shit, what do we have with this guy?
We can swear on this?
Yeah.
Oh.
You can totally swear. Drop an F-bomb. Feel good. Spread your wings. But what if LeBron fell in love with him after 2 weeks? That trade was sitting there.
It was. And I know what you're saying. And it was funny, too, when all the Love pursuit was going on.
What would Belichick have done?
He would have signed Love when he was 32 for the minimum.
For $5 million a year? Belichick would have kept Wiggins and seen it.
This sounds really good out loud, but you're dismissing some other factors, and you were still competing.
GM LeBron.
Okay. And even though the Celtics stuff, it was always great when it would say the Celtics are no longer in the running for Kevin Love. And you go, oh, thanks. Okay, appreciate that. Not quite sure what they were going to do there.
Our pick poo-poo platter wasn't working for you?
Daryl Morey has decided to pull back on the rights of Clint Capella for this potential
lighten
Kevin
up the
Love.
D-League.
Right. Everyone lights up the D-League.
He's
okay?
really lighting it up.
Yeah, but when you look at the D-League numbers, I love when so-and-so gets called up and he can't. Like, I think Powell had a 30 and 15 game, the kid that was traded in the Rondo deal.
Yep.
And every time after a while, I'm like, man, that guy's doing really well. That guy's doing really well. And I go, how come every D-League call-up is getting like 28, 14, and 7?
Because they all play fast.
That's all
it's
they
like
do.
the early 60s where Oscar did the triple-double. It's because they were averaging 140 points a game or whatever.
If you're Cleveland, you don't know who else you're competing with. You don't know who can pop out there. At that time, you think you're acquiring a top 5, top 10 guy in Love. So you don't want to mess with it. So to say, like, let's figure out what's going on here with Wiggins, and then we'll make sure he's not a star. I get what you're saying. I selfishly wanted Wiggins to play with LeBron so badly. And I also kind of wonder, too, like you hear these rumblings, if Wiggins had signed with that agency, would he have been involved in the trade, or they would have found out another?
I'm just going to say it. I don't give a shit. I think that was like 70% of it. I think LeBron and
that's
Paul
why you
on that
have
whole side. I think Wiggins turned those guys down, and those guys like, all right, screw this guy. If he had signed with Rich Paul, or if he had said, I'll move with Rich Paul, I bet Andrew Wiggins is on Cleveland. I totally believe that.
Tristan Thompson didn't get traded.
Tristan Thompson did not get traded. Was he in the Sports Illustrated letter? He might have been.
He was a guy they were looking forward to playing with.
See, I think they should have kept haggling with Cleveland to try to put Deion Waiters in that trade. Although maybe at that point everyone in the league knew Deion Waiters was forbidden fruit.
I don't know if everybody was down on Deion.
I certainly wasn't. I just sold my condo on Waiters Island.
I
lived in the same neighborhood with Zach, and all of a sudden
property even up anymore?
Zach and I had the only 2 cars in the neighborhood, and we were like, "This is terrible." Zach sold his, and then I sold mine.
He hasn't been any good with Oklahoma City.
He might not be good. His destiny might be good stats, bad team.
Yeah.
He's gonna have a nice little run on Philly next year as they're tanking again. Because
but see, you know what? That's a fair thing to ask about Kevin Love.
Is he a good stats, bad team guy?
Yeah.
He might be.
DeMarcus.
The only problem is they don't post him up though. Like they don't use him right. I watch the Cavs. I'm like, he's not Channing Frye.
But some nights when I watch him too, when they space him and then he gets the catch and he's in a better spot to take a 3, and his shooting numbers have been better, but it's weird with him. He'll get this catch and his up fake is really good. I mean, he's got all those little tools and all those little tricks, but you go, why are you up faking when you had it wide open on the catch from one of the best passers
I think
in the game?
he's rusty now though. I think when you're in your own head and you're not playing the way you were used to be playing.
So do you have a problem with GM LeBron? If this is what it costs to get, so if he wanted to go to the Celtics,
the move for them would have been to trade Tristan Thompson immediately. You can't have Love and Tristan Thompson. They weren't going to trade him, so that's a Rich Paul decision. And then giving Verja that extension when he hadn't played 50 games in a row in like 10 years.
He's a glue guy. He's a glue guy.
But that's an expiring contract. They could have traded for something.
So if he was,
GM LeBron did not do a good job.
Okay, so you can call out the moves.
I think GM LeBron got fired in like November.
I don't think
GM LeBron was trying to trade for Mozgov.
I don't think David Blatt's the head coach if they have the same kind of results by the end of February.
See, I'm going to get in trouble. This is one of those moments that whatever I say next is going to be pulled out in a blog excerpt. And
that happened the last time we sat down and did this.
Misinterpreted all that stuff. But I had friends that went to that Spurs-Cavs game, and this isn't the first time I've heard this.
You're talking about the one just last week?
The one that just happened. They were in the game in San Antonio, and then I saw them the next night in Austin. And they were saying, they were near the Cavs bench. They were saying it's just weird. Just a weird dynamic still, even now. Even though I think Blatt's doing a lot better, but it's like LeBron and Ty Lue, LeBron is always communicating with Ty Lue. And they were like, it's just weird. It's like it's almost like Blatt and Lue are the co-coaches.
If you think about what it took for all of this to come together for this team, and I would argue if I still had a favorite team, okay, and if it was the Celtics, say, and you go, you can get LeBron, but here's all the stuff you have to deal with, you just do it because this is how special the guy is. But
so you're saying like if they don't win the Wiggins lottery, that's got to be one of them, right? They had a 1% chance or 2% chance.
Oh, you mean for him coming back?
Well, you're just talking about all the different things that had to happen for LeBron to do well.
Right, you had to have
for LeBron to come back.
Right, you had to have Wade be who Wade was and miss a bunch of games, and that was a factor.
Fall apart in the finals.
Fall apart because I think if it's competitive, I think if it comes down to a 7th game, I always thought LeBron was going to go back to Miami for one more year and then revisit this stuff this year, then do a 1 with a 1-year option, just like he has now.
I think that was. I think when Wiggins won the lottery, I think that was the game changer.
And I always heard he wanted to play with Embiid, so they'd taken Embiid. So that was the weird thing where you go, wait a minute, did he want Embiid, or did they know that Wiggins was who Minnesota wanted, and that was going to get the deal done?
Explain this to me. Why is he tweeting on draft night for the Heat to take Shabazz Napier?
That's crazy. You're right.
Obviously, at that point in time, he thought he was coming back.
But I heard stuff about one meeting where Riley ran into LeBron prior to the Vegas meeting, which apparently wasn't very long at all when LeBron was out there.
He was mad about Riley saying that he was having a girl. That was another thing that happened.
Yeah, well,
God, this has turned into an NBA After Dark episode. I apologize, Julia Littman and Chris Ryan, but yeah, I heard Riley had mentioned in a press conference, like, and his girl that's coming. But LeBron and his wife hadn't told the public yet that they were having a daughter.
Yeah, and you can post that on
mad.
Instagram. I mean, that's a good post. And he just totally, just spoiler alert.
He's like, what the hell? That was, he has 10 million posts. But it was that.
Drake was going to retweet it.
You know what else bothered him, apparently? I have a lot of, like, stupid inside info on this, but when Riley gave that whole, like, Vito Corleone, you can act like a man speech.
Oh, yeah. No, that didn't go over
That
well
was
at all.
the dumbest thing Riley did. That one made LeBron mad, from what I heard.
Well, before the Vegas meeting that didn't work out, and that was the week, right? That was the week leading up to it. Because
But I thought it was over by the Vegas meeting.
I think, it was over. It was over.
I think that was a formality.
Yeah, exactly. That
was like going out to dinner with your girlfriend when you know you're moving all the stuff out of your house the next day.
Right.
What do you want?
I'm still hungry.
Hey, let's have a meal.
But he apparently had run into him, and he was just ice cold to him. And this is weeks prior to that.
Yeah.
So he's going, wait, what's going on here? So if you think of the timeline, you're right. The Shabazz tweet was really weird. But I feel like famous people now, because of social media, they just like just doing stuff. It's like Mark Cuban tweeting out a pic of some bet that he made on the Super Bowl where he won. I don't even remember how much it was. And it was like handwritten. Anybody who's ever placed a bet at a casino goes, what is that?
Right.
But I'm not saying that that's what he was doing with Shabazz, but it doesn't make any sense in the timeline of all the other things that happened. But
if you think you're leaving Miami, you look like a dick if you're telling them who to take. Right?
So now you're just calling him out as a dude instead of whether or not he actually made his decision.
No, my point is I don't think he did. I don't think he knew until July, and I think it happened really fast. I think something happened, or maybe accumulated stuff. I think something happened with Cleveland where somebody reached out to somebody, and then when they got Gilbert in that room on a Sunday, it was done in 5 days. But I think that's how fast he decided. I don't think this was like this master plan of whatever. I think it just all of a sudden snowballed, and then he was out. It was almost like when you break up with somebody and you're just like, oh, my God, I just broke up with my girlfriend. What happened?
It's weird because that Sunday prior to the Friday Sports Illustrated letter, I felt pretty good about him going back to Cleveland. And then Chris Sheridan, who we know, and I mean, I don't know him personally, but know his work. It was funny because a lot of guys that had more of a forum now, still being at ESPN, were saying, well, he can take that risk because it's his own thing. And it felt like people were trying to shoot him down.
Roulette wheel.
Right.
Yeah, it's like everything on black.
Yeah, it's 50-50 for him, so why not take the shot and get the recognition for it? And I heard him do an ESPN radio interview, and he was really convincing. But I was hearing the exact same stuff. But it was really hard for me in radio just to say Monday he's going to Cleveland. And then I said, educated guess, it's Cleveland by the end of the week. Then Wednesday I was like, it's going to be Cleveland. It's going to be Cleveland. And then the letter comes out Friday.
Did you ever think, though, it was Cleveland all along? Like to the point where through all these little tiny signs over the course of, I don't know, the season, that maybe it was headed that way?
There are people that will tell you that, right?
I don't believe that. Because the Shabazz Napier tweet alone makes me think he didn't know.
I really think the Wade thing had a lot to do with it. I think him showing up to the arena, ready to go, and then Wade, whatever, less than an hour before tip, going, not going tonight. And they're fighting for a seed.
Yeah.
And
they abused him last season.
Right. And then LeBron gets dehydrated in that Spurs game in the finals. And now it's a spot for Wade going, this was the plan, to rest you all this time so you're ready to go right now.
Yeah.
Take over, help out here. And then it didn't happen. Now it's always turned me, like I've become, since you and I started talking about the Wade thing and how he has the best gig in sports, because all anybody does is talk about the sacrifice and how he had to hand the team over. Well, he handed the team over to the best player in the league, okay? So it's not that big of a deal.
Right.
And everybody respects you, and everybody knows you have the ring before him. So when LeBron's throwing up 2, Wade's always throwing up 3. And
it was genius. It was one of the great genius
and he never took the
chess
hits.
moves ever.
Because when he wasn't playing well, it was because he was hurt.
He was amazing in 2011. I thought Wade was awesome. I actually thought Wade might have been better than LeBron.
Oh, I'm not denying how great this guy's been.
No, but I think part of it was like when he convinced LeBron to come, I think he thought he was a better player in the moment. And then he's like, and then eventually when I get older, LeBron can carry the load. But I think when his body started breaking down right after that first year, it was never, and that's when it shifted, it felt like.
But could you blame anybody? He had to have thought about it. He had to have thought about being back in control. If we go to Cleveland, we're going to get to do whatever we want. It's not going to be that way with Pat Riley, which seems a little ridiculous. But if a team's willing to let you just do whatever you want, then I can understand why he would want to go back there. But they just got so run out of the building against San Antonio, and the shooting numbers that San Antonio had are just something you just don't see.
I knew when they started Ray Allen, they were done.
And you were in there, too. You were in the building for it.
I was.
And you could sense that. I remember you talking about it going, this is kind of a weird vibe in here, right?
I said, I remember after Game 4, I said, I thought the Miami fans made a big mistake leaving that game early because I didn't think we were coming back. And that was the 2-2-1-1-1 that year, right? That was the first time they were doing that?
What are we talking about, 2 years ago?
No, this year.
Oh, this year.
These last finals. They lost Game 4. They were down 3-1.
Right.
And all those Miami fans left with like 8 minutes to go. And I think I said this after the game. I'm pretty sure I did. Like, that might have been it for the LeBron Wade era. Like, they should have stayed and given the standing ovation. Yeah, because I didn't think we were coming back. I just thought, like, I was talking to different people that I trusted, and just what I was watching with my own eyes, I was like, this reminds me of Detroit LA. And I said that on TV too. It was like everybody keeps waiting for this to flip, but Detroit LA 2004
never happened.
It never happened. It was like they had figured out
worse.
this other team and
Right.
just got worse. And
Right.
that's the history of those kind of series. But I may have wagered a lot of money on San Antonio in Game 5. I don't know how many studio analysts have ever bet on a game they were doing, but I might have been in at San Antonio in that last one. I might have stepped in. That's
not even insider intel. That's just smelling the room, man.
I might have stepped in. You can see stuff in person. Also, that's San Antonio, and this is why I haven't counted them out for this season yet. Because it's just a hard place to play. They have the best fans. They do. Their fans affect the game the most. They have the most normal people in the stadium still. Golden State has great fans, but when they get to round 2, round 3, who's going to be sitting in the good seats? Rich people. All the good fans are going to get priced out.
So you're right about that, San Antonio. When you just see kind of you get the cameras rolling, the walk up. You're right. You got regular people that are obsessed with this team.
Give a they know. It reminds me of what the Garden used to be like way back when, where like you could kind of sense your team's going on a run, and you jump in, and it's like you become like this gang of bullies. They're the only fans that do that still. Miami, actually, I was shocked by how decent. Miami was a bandwagon crowd when it was going well. They were actually really good. Like LeBron would feed off them, and they had a little bit something going.
You start playing that,
and I think the Celtics have a crowd like that.
Yeah, when I was there,
Isaiah Thomas, the way
yeah, Jay Crowder in the corner.
Jay Crowder.
So who are you picking to come out of the West? Because I think we had the same NBA Finals matchup before the season started.
If Kawhi can make threes, which he hasn't all season, and he might have a really messed up hand. But from what we've seen from Parker the last 2 weeks, I think they now have to be taken seriously. And I'm tired of losing to the infrastructure. But I still think Golden State, what they're doing, like the track record of the season they're having says finals. It's like when you're point differential,
right?
You're going to win 67 to 68 games, whatever they end up with. They're going to have the MVP because Curry's getting it if they win 67 games. All the track record says finals. But the team, the Oklahoma City in round 1, if they're healthy, I think is a real issue. But I don't think they're going to be healthy.
Yeah, why would we say they're going to be healthy? Because
why?
It's just,
do we know if Durant's healthy?
No. And even when they're healthy, okay, so say Durant and Westbrook are back. Now this Ibaka thing adds a completely different level to this, although he was the weirdest thing ever where he was done for the playoffs and he came back 2 games later.
Right, he is superhuman.
But I've always been worried, and this is kind of where I'm at now with teams in the playoffs, is that how many scorers do you have? How many guys do you have that can actually get something going on their own when everything breaks down, game 3 and game
Crowd's
4.
cheering.
But everybody knows your sets, and they know which, like, you're setting screens in game 4 that nobody even, like, they've already figured out how they're going to navigate around it. And over the years, Oklahoma City would always play with 2 zeros on offense, whether it was Thabo, they go with Robertson sometimes, although they play Starman, they don't play as much. They would play Perk, and you go, even with guys as dynamic as Westbrook and Durant, it felt like it was harder to see them score in the playoffs. And I don't think Brooks, I always feel like the head coach's job, one of the important ones in game is when it's going tough for your team offensively, find something to make it easier.
Get some movement.
Right. You're watching, help these guys get an easier bucket. And they don't do that. So even if they're healthy, I'm not picking them against Golden State because Golden State is the most adaptable team offensively. We mentioned they're the best defensive team the last 2 years. And they can do this small thing they're doing with Draymond at center where they're actually insane defensively with that group because it's not that they're small necessarily in the front line traditionally if it's Barnes at power forward, but it's Barnes, it's Draymond, and then it's Iguodala at the perimeter spot, and then you got Curry and Clay. So you're actually really big and really long everywhere else. And that's why that lineup's works so well defensively.
I like that lineup. The track
Livingston,
record,
you can play him.
great bench.
Then you can play Curry off the ball, and they're running some stuff where Curry's catching it, and you're going, oh, this is why my shooting numbers were insane 2 years ago.
Harrison Barnes is back.
Right. Yeah, after playing with 4 backups all the time because Mark Jackson refused to ever play him with the other guys. And I love that Golden State had the guts to go, Mark's done a good job. We have turned this thing around, but we think we can be better, and there's some things here that we really don't like, so let's go ahead and make that move. And I think a lot of organizations would have gone, okay, even if we want to make a move,
year.
We can't do this because everybody's going to kill us. Mark's in the media.
By the way, Oklahoma City did that with Scott Brooks. Let's be honest.
Well, I think that's a front office. He does everything we want him to do move.
Right.
That's exactly. It's like baseball now with these managers.
I
can't believe he still has the job.
What you just laid out with Golden State, with the ISOs, with the Mark Jackson, this to me is the fly in the ointment of Cleveland. And I know everybody's going to be like, "Oh, Cleveland's going to make the finals." Of course they are. Kyrie's, but like, it's all 1-on-1. And when they're going against Atlanta, and did you watch that Atlanta game?
Yes,
everyone's just counting out Atlanta.
I'm not. I don't know who I'm picking right now, but
all the stuff they did in that game, it's like that's all going to happen in the playoffs. They figured out what to do on all that stuff, and they made them go 1-on-1.
The Cleveland argument in that one, if you look at the schedule, is that where they were coming in and what Atlanta had rest-wise. But I'm with you on Atlanta. I'm telling you today, if it's Atlanta-Cleveland in the West, or that would be weird, in the Eastern Conference Finals, I don't know who I'm picking today because the Atlanta stuff is real.
I'll tell you this much: if Atlanta's like plus 300 in that series, I know what I'm betting on because I think that's a dead even matchup, and I don't like betting on ISO ball.
How do you have this gambling problem and still have all this money?
What are you talking about? I win when I gamble. That's why I have it now. But the Kyrie's the X factor because when your second best player could just win a game by himself. That's a freaking X factor.
Does anyone finish at the rim in more probable ways than he does?
I'm so mad I was late on the bail. I wanted to see him be on a good team. I think that's a fair request by me.
But I don't think it's wrong to see a younger player.
Can I see somebody play well for a month on a good team? Just 1 month.
But when you see Kyrie, it was funny because he goes, "We don't need LeBron," and then a couple years of getting beat up and not even tasting when you go, "Yeah, we send him back." But the Kyrie thing is different because we've all had to change the way we've looked at point guards. And I still have buddies that are arguing about, well, he's not a true point guard. You go, let's just stop talking about it. The league, the GMs don't talk about that anymore. They go, who cares about it?
Well, you need at least one person who's aware of the greater good.
Right, Harden, for all the stuff he's putting up, that guy is a fascinating offensive player because of everything he sees.
He makes the right. You need somebody who uses the team correctly.
Right.
And for Cleveland, they have LeBron. And I think they've figured out now how to use Kyrie in this kind of, all right, this time you score some points. Oh, he's hot. We're going to ride you. And other than that, he doesn't really handle the ball that much.
Because there are a lot of guys that are quick. There's a lot of guys that can get an angle. But most of them can't finish at the rim when they're undersized. And Kyrie does this thing. He shows you the ball and he pulls it back. And he comes on the other side of it. And you just go, he just finished that?
Yeah.
And it's all he does all night long. And it's honestly, I think it's the most important part of his game. But
and when he can go like 8 for 8 from threes,
right? Because his 3-point numbers have been insane. But if you get back to Atlanta, and I'll admit, the beginning of the year, I mean, it's always hard, right? It's always hard to figure out when something's new.
We've seen regular season success.
Sure.
Doesn't translate to anything more than that. Sometimes you need the extra gear.
they're smaller up front with Horford and Millsap. But again, now that Horford's healthy, people are seeing how special this guy is. He's incredible. You look at some of those defensive numbers and what he does for them, and he's so smart every play. But most of the stuff you're watching every night is all high ball screen and some variation off of it. I mean, sometimes somebody will run something more complicated.
A lot of like taking advantage of a lazy defense or somebody making a mistake or somebody checking out for a second, and all of a sudden there's a layup.
Or the Thunder leaving Perk in to roll with Horford or Millsap, and you go, if I'm at home watching this. But that's what's so tough about Atlanta is that when you're having your bigs out there with Horford and Millsap, and those are the screen setters, T can get to the rim, and he's
all
pretty
their dudes
good.
can. So can Schroeder.
Right. Schroeder's he's one of your irrational confidence guys.
I love that
He has
guy.
to be, right?
Oh, he's the best.
Yeah.
He might actually be the starting point guard this year.
But
he was going. I went to a Clipper game.
you love him.
He went at Chris Paul, and it was almost like he wanted to get in a fight with Chris Paul. Like he's like, I'm going to really put myself on the map. I'm going to get Chris Paul to punch me. I was like, the kid's like 19.
I met him at the
German,
Combine.
loves poop.
Yeah, loves it. Was obviously going to go with that line in a second, but you beat me to it. But I met him at the Combine. Remember he had that weird thing, and you go, you ducking out of this? You teeth? You know, what's going on? He was like, nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Just wasn't getting into it. But if you go high screen with Teague, who can get to the rim if he has the angle off the screen, if they don't play it right. And then you have Horford and Millsap, who can catch and finish because they're just more mobile bigs, usually more mobile than who they're going to be going up against, or they can both pop and hit a shot from the outside, and then you have the corner action. If you have the guy drive off the screen and the defender sags, and now it's 1-on-2 offensively, and then you have corner shots because somebody else has come off of them, that's going to be hard in the playoffs, is my point. Right? That's still going to be hard.
But you left out Korver, too, who is this just Percy Harvin X Factor, or what we wanted Percy Harvin to be, where when he's on the field, everybody's like, oh, watch him. You know, everybody's flipping and pointing. And you forget him for a second, and all of a sudden he just made another three.
I love Korver, and in today's game, he's appreciated.
He's appreciated now. Hasn't been as good as he was before the All-Star break, but
no. But in our childhood, Korver's the guy where you go, oh, we got Korver. Oh,
well, he's Randy Whitman in our childhood.
Yeah, but see, the great thing about Korver is that Korver is big enough that he doesn't kill you on the other end.
Right,
That's
he's
a
not
very
like,
underrated part of his game.
Not like a 6'1" dude.
Yeah.
I think Atlanta's going to be interesting, and the Celtics are going to be there. And
I love that you don't want a lottery pick.
Why?
You're just burnt. You're
the
burnt
difference of
from
4
Duncan.
spots.
You're burnt from Odin.
Well, I just think once you get past the 9th pick, I think the odds of finding somebody from 10 to 17, it's a crapshoot.
Yeah, but Chicago.
Look at last year. Chicago traded 2 picks up for McDermott, and one of the picks was Nurkic, who's better than McDermott and is a better asset 9 months later. I mean,
that was the difference, though, of a team going, we need to add another score. We need perimeter scoring.
That's a trade Belichick would have made.
Yeah.
Belichick would have made, you're going to give me 16 and 19 for 11? Sure.
Done.
I'm in.
Nurkic.
I'll hit with one of those, too. Nurkic has been great. We have a lot of badass.
He's the only untouchable on Denver.
I know.
I love when we go, everyone's available except for Nurkic.
I know. The other guys feel so great. I would have been trying to trade frantically for Fareed. I think Fareed on the right team is going to be a monster.
You want to already be good, though.
On the right team. I want to, like, on 42, 45 win team, I want to add Fareed to that team.
When I came out here and did the first part of the trade
value special,
which I think was, a year ago? Because the second part just came
was. We did that. We taped that on, February 8th?
I think so.
I think Kyrie Irving's still moving up. He's moved up 21 spots.
That was the day of the Rondo trade.
Yeah.
That was the show.
It was great.
So I had a Rose topic with you that we never did on the show. And you had Rose where? You didn't even put him in it, right? Didn't put him in it. Oh, 42 the next 2 years? Okay. And this is before the most recent injury.
$42 million?
Yeah. His contract the next 2 is at 42. I'm just off the top of my head. But what I was going to say to you on that, we'll just say it here, is that never underestimate new owner syndrome. And that is with Rose.
Sacramento?
Well,
do they still count for new owner system? Or
I think
just
so. Yeah.
Dumb owner system.
Yeah, I think we can still put them in new owner syndrome. Denver's not necessarily that.
Panic owner syndrome.
But what if Denver said, hey, let's get our medicals to look at this? And they go,
Jesus.
it looks better. Hey, it looks really good. I mean, I can already read
Change
the
the
newspaper.
scenery.
We get Rose in here. We've got a star. We get to put Rose with a jersey. And, hey, all this new TV money's coming in anyway, so who cares about his $42 million?
What are you thinking, like Lawson and Fareed?
Lawson and a piece and whatever.
Lawson and Gallinari?
Gallinari, if he ever gets right, man, look out. I'm just
Gallinari is going to end up on the right team at some point
He's a
in his
good
life.
player.
He's like, the funny thing about Denver is they have like 7 of those guys.
I'm still
They're
dumb
all
enough
going to end
to
up
think
on the right team.
Dumb enough to think if you had Bargnani in the right system, stretch 4
like
off
Kelly
the bench.
Olynyk on the Celtics. That's how. If
He's in
Brad
the
Stevens
perfect
had ever
system
gotten
now.
Bargnani, yeah, he really is. Kelly Olynyk on any other team is Bargnani.
Actually, I ran into Olynyk out once.
Yeah?
He was very polite. There's no great story behind it. He wasn't dressed up though.
They put a preeminence on chemistry.
With the Celtics?
Yeah, because I think
How do we get back to this team again?
every decision. The audience is thinking that too.
You're not buying, before we go on a full breakdown of the Celtics offseason plan.
They could be 15-6 in the last 21 by Wednesday.
What do you think of the Rose stuff? You don't think that there's one owner that could talk? Look at these guys.
Oh.
I mean, Lakeup, who has now shown that he's
Won't
more.
be Golden State.
No,
I think Denver's a good candidate.
Obviously, it won't be Golden State.
No, Denver's
but
a good
He
candidate.
maxed out David Lee because it was new. Hey, I got a team. Let's go do something. I mean, Cuban, for all the love he gets, he gave Rafe a ton of money and wanted Dennis Rodman to live in his guest house. So when you're a new owner, you cannot help yourself.
So who are the new owners?
Well, you guys in Milwaukee are pretty
An
smart
interesting
so
Philly
far.
move. My guys?
Yeah. Well, you broke the trade.
Oh.
Broke the. That was. I'm not saying they're your guys, but you broke that ownership thing.
I did. I was with those guys.
You didn't get enough credit for that.
I'm not getting enough credit either when Atlanta goes for $1.1 billion, which I've been saying for 3 weeks. Milwaukee, I was with those guys until they did the MCW thing. I don't think Kidd would trade for Derrick Rose though, because I think all the. You know that the players, they kind of know. It's like how animals can smell when another animal's dying. Like they have like a scent. I think the other players have that smell. I think like somebody like Cade could watch Rose and be like, "No, I don't see it. I don't think he trusts his body. I know."
That's the crazy thing about this is if you're trading for Rose, you're not trading for the guy from 3 years ago. And I hate saying this about a guy in his prime.
You're trading for a jump shooter.
Age-wise, you go, what's the safer bet that he
By the
gets
way,
back to that guy, or he's kind of
been
a
this
version?
guy for 2 years now. This was the guy in the Olympic trials that or whatever they had before the World Championships, and they were panicking because they were like, "We can't. This guy's not one of our best players." And they had to do this whole spin control thing.
Right, they
was
showed that
terrible the
layup
whole
where he went
time.
coast to coast, and
Yeah.
you go, "Hey, he's back.
He's back with Derrick
He's back.
Rose.
He's
Yeah,
back."
he's not the same
I hate
guy.
the Derrick Rose story. I hate it, but there's no way I could sit here. I don't think either of us are saying. But to say, well, he'll get back now because the meniscus is out and rehab.
He's had too many surgeries.
Are you kidding me?
When I had Penny Hardaway on the BS report before this last Rose injury, and he was just like, "It's never going to be the same. I know it. I never trusted the lower half of my body again after certain like." It's just the track record's not good.
And that's why Westbrook is still, again, superhuman because he has surgery and you don't even know. I don't even know what injury he's supposed to be getting over. He had a dent in his head. And he played, it was Friday and he played Wednesday's game with a dent in his head. That guy's stupid.
I feel like we're going to be telling stories about him 40 years from now.
I hope so.
Like the way people talk about Jim Brown. Like, remember when Westbrook broke his neck and came back the next game? His vertebrae just healed.
I think he was a sniper, but I'm not sure. If you
Remember
had
when Westbrook's leg came off and he put it back on and he played the next night? It's all
you
going to
had-
happen.
He'll be the only starting lineup figure with pieces that you can take off of him.
I know. I would just never rule
Kids
him
still
out.
buying starting lineup? Is anyone going to get
No,
that reference?
that's over.
Okay,
They're all on eBay now.
You had the greatest line I think I've heard about Westbrook in going back years. And that is, and there was even a time for me, I think it was that Memphis series, that was an insane series years ago, where you go, what are you doing, man? And he still has it. He's never going to lose that part of it. That Portland game that they lost up there a couple Fridays ago,
Yeah.
I watched the end of it. The numbers were sick, but he just went down and he's going 1-on-5. But you can't take that out of him. You can't ask him to do that and then ask him to be all the other things. It's impossible. And you had this line, you go, his mistakes are so kind of in your face, glaring and obvious to anybody that's watched basketball that people hold that 10% against him and ignore
90,
the
10,
90. Right.
Yeah.
It was a great line.
The 90% versus the 10%. And the 10% just really stands out with him. I think there's certain guys like that. Rondo now is no longer a 90-10 guy. I think we thought he was, but he's really now like a 40-60 guy. Because like when you have
Sacramento's going to sign him.
I think the Lakers are going to sign him. I think that he's a Laker waiting to happen. I think that was done when they had breakfast at the
I thought
Broadway,
that breakfast didn't happen.
The Broadway. Oh, it happened. Yeah, I think Rondo's going to the Lakers. And I think it's going to be a big mistake. And I think the way basketball has gone, and I've written this recently, if your point guard or your guard or whoever, like if it's somebody who's if he's a guard that's one of the most important players in your team, and he can't shoot foul shots or get to the rim or make threes, if you can't get to the rim or make threes, you're in major trouble. And this is why I didn't like Reggie Jackson. It's like, what does he do? I'm looking at his free throw attempts. He doesn't really have any. He's a 32% 3-point shooter. So what do I have? I have long twos? Like, we've already done the 10 years of research. Long twos don't work.
Yeah.
You better be able to do one or the other. And this is why I love Isaiah Thomas. Threes and layups. That's where basketball is going. Got to be able to do one or the other. And if you can do both, you're in good shape.
A Thomas type, though, some coaches, scouts types will tell you playoffs, more aggressive traps.
Yeah.
They just hate the smaller point guards.
We saw it. They played a good team that shut him out, that shut him down. I can't remember what it was. It was, Golden State. Fourth quarter, they just figured out. They took the ball away from him, basically. He couldn't do anything.
I forget. Wasn't there a DJ Augustine playoff series once, too, or just I remember he just got trapped and you go, oh, okay.
It was the different. Chicago Indiana series last year.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
okay. Yeah, and you just go, okay, this isn't going to. Wait a minute.
Or Chicago, Washington.
Chicago, Washington.
No, it was Washington.
Last year.
I mean, freaking Randy Whitman figured out how to stop DJ Augustine.
I remember I used to like Washington.
This year.
Yeah.
When your coach has to be above us of C-.
I don't think Wall's right, though, right? Wall hasn't looked
Doesn't
right.
matter. They're so poorly coached.
But I thought there was enough offense there. See, I'm now more of an offense guy. I mean, you can't be terrible on defense, but I'm more of an offense guy now. And that's what's crazy about Dallas is that the one thing you would bring a point guard in to do, and they were rolling offensively, and now they bring in the guy that you just described, and you go, this isn't going to work, and they're not going to re-sign him.
Well, full circle back to your initial point about legacies and storylines, because this is what Barnwell likes to write about this for football, where football is turning this sport where somewhere between 5 to 7 teams starting in the month of January, any one of those teams can win the Super Bowl. And each game comes down to one play. And it's like you look back, Detroit easily could have kept going. Dallas could have easily kept going. Green Bay should have won.
Still can't believe they lost.
Baltimore easily could have beaten the Pats. Seattle came within one play of beating the Pats. So 6 teams could come out of that season and say, it could have happened for us, but this happened. And I think the West, I think you're right. I think the West might end up being like that a little bit. Golden State's in the best position to succeed because they have home court. They're going to be tough at home. I think Curry's going to – 7-game series, Curry and Thompson will win 2 by themselves just by shooting.
That's exactly how I feel about it.
It's so hard to beat that when you have that.
You look at Dwight and you go, okay, I know nobody likes him anymore, but you think if Houston and Memphis meet up, you're going to be thrilled you have Dwight. But when I look at Golden State, I see all these different scenarios and you go, I can see him matching up with this team. I can see him matching up with this team. I see him going small.
Memphis
I can see him play Curry off
for
the
them,
ball. Yeah, but
Memphis hasn't been playing well.
Bogut feels like a maintenance thing all year long just to make sure he's okay. And if he's good to go.
You can't guard Zebo or Draymond Green. That's the one guy in the league he can't guard if you also have to guard Marc Gasol.
But that means you're just going to have Draymond set up, or you run some stuff for him where you make it brutal for Zach to chase him all over the place.
Right.
So, and Zach is the kind of guy, like I appreciate him more and more watching him just because you go, he's got zero lift. He goes right into you.
I know.
He's this lefty. He has every single trick in the game. And I think I had a tweet, and I know it's always awesome when people reference their own tweets from the past, but
or when the sports network runs the tweets under highlights and stuff.
ESPN
Why do
never
we do that?
They never run any of my stuff. I try sometimes when I'm just locked in on a Saturday. I go, what would be an ESPN-y type tweet that they would retweet on the bottom line? And then they'll retweet Marshall Henderson stuff, who's like one of the most hated athletes ever. And I go, Marshall Henderson's getting retweeted, and I like work. I'm 20 minutes up the street.
Why don't they retweet good tweets though? The tweets are always like, Marshall Henderson said, "Whoa!" It's like that needs to be in the ticker. Dwayne Wade said, "Good luck."
My favorite is when we had one of our guys read that they were like, if LeBron James tweets about anything, we're like, okay, wait a minute, we're gonna have to.
The king is weighed in.
We're gonna bump Mike and Mike. We're gonna go. Well, that wouldn't happen. We got to do some live coverage of LeBron's tweets here, and then one of our guys reads it. And
live coverage of tweets.
And it said, LeBron's watching somebody else, and it's always great too when the stars are kind of at home tweeting and they're watching the package just like we are, and they're like, Jared Bayless going ham, and one of our guys read it. Because nobody knew what ham meant.
Or congrats to Klay Thompson. Unbelievable shooting performance. Said Dirk Nowitzki.
Right.
Oh, good. I'm glad Dirk weighed in.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's got to be some reason the ratings must go up when they do that.
Patrick Beverly, sick entry pass, SMH. Al Horford.
See, now I'm going to laugh every time this happens.
See, now I got to try to figure out how to do it, but I can't because it's going to be my account. So they'll just go, it's Russillo again.
I was so happy. I was watching the World Series poker live table, and I did a tweet, and they used it in the telecast. I've never been happier. I was like,
no way.
I'm in my underwear.
Yeah,
my whole family's asleep. Now that's going to be my new goal. It's to get on SportsCenter with tweets. With the next big shooting performance, I'm going to tweet like, Steph Curry, 9 threes? Holy mackerel!
But that's the thing I don't understand is like some of these guys that cover teams and they live tweet a whole football game and they'll go 3rd and 7.
How are they watching the game?
Right, you can't do it because when I get caught in like a stupid Twitter thing when I'm watching my games at home and I've got my basement all set up, then I get mad at myself and I rewind the plays because I go, I just missed something. And then I go, put the stupid phone away.
That's basketball Twitter. Basketball Twitter seems like people are listening to the game while they're tweeting and reading the tweets.
But see, that's what I'll do sometimes
it's really hard
now.
to watch the games and look at Twitter at the same time.
Because the football ones drive me the most crazy, though, is I'll just do it. And my friends know what I'm doing. Guys like you would know what I'm doing, but nobody else knows what I'm doing. And I'll go, huge 3rd down.
Right.
Because somebody tweets that. And you'll look at somebody's feed and you go, you cover a team and you have 90,000 tweets. And you'll actually tweet, huge 3rd down.
Big play there. Kept the drive alive.
Be like, 7 retweets on that big 3rd down.
It'd be funny if Twitter.
I'm reaching out.
What would people do if Twitter announced, like, as part of a concerted effort to make our product better, we're going to start cracking down on people who tweet too much and tweet dumb things?
I'm all for it.
That'd be great, right?
I have a rule kind of where I started to follow more people because I realize it's really not that big of a deal to just scroll through things. And if there's a guy in the industry who I kind of like and I see that they follow me, I go, I can follow him back.
Yeah.
We don't have to
well,
be
you
Jay
can mute
Billis
them now.
here.
They have the mute button.
Yeah, that's right, the mute button.
Mute button's great. You can pretend you're following somebody, but you're not.
How many guys are you muting right now?
No comment. There's definitely a couple I was really excited to mute.
How do you handle an unfollow when you just go, I can't do it anymore, I'm unfollow? Because if you're following somebody with your reach, then that person's probably psyched that Simmons is following him. How do you handle...
I just wouldn't unfollow them.
You just wouldn't. So you're following people right now.
I don't check Twitter enough, so it's like it wouldn't be worth it for me.
And you don't look at your mentions, right?
I do not.
Do you turn it off or you just don't? Is there a feature to turn it off or you just don't look at it?
I just don't look at it.
I can't imagine.
It's the same.
Like for you.
It's the same reason why I don't look down at a porta john. when you're peeing in a porta john, you could look down.
How do you aim?
You take a quick look and you pee.
Okay, you just gather.
You could stare down and be like, "I'm going to make sure I hit everything," or you could just look up there and be like, "I'm not looking down." Those are Twitter replies. It would be fine if it was a good sampling of all the different people, but it's not. It's not a fair sampling. I don't think it's how often do you reply to people's Twitters or tweets?
Not very often,
Twitters.
but yeah,
like a 90-year-old.
Keep that in.
I meant Twitter and I went with the S. Yeah, I mean, how often do you?
I was doing the podcast with my dad today.
Let's say it never worked out for you, and you were a bartender right now in Boston. You're like,
which was really close,
late
to happening.
30s. But for me as well, you're in your late 30s, and you're just furious about the 3 things that happened that prevent, and it never worked out. And you're like an assistant manager at the greatest bar on earth. That's your job. And you get to go to Celtic games sometimes. Would you be on Twitter and sports blog message boards like murdering announcers that you hated?
Probably.
Yeah, I feel like I would have been too. If my career didn't work out, I would have just been lurking everywhere, just poison.
When we were in college, we used to call and leave. We learned this horrible thing, but at ESPN, so this is mid to late 90s, like I was really probably like, I don't know if you probably were the same way. If it was a certain guy that you liked, you'd watch a Sports Center. I think we're all the same. We'd watch it over and over and over again. If Kilborn was doing one, I could watch it a third time and be psyched. Like the line's coming. I remember he had this line once where he was leading into a baseball highlight, and he goes, "We all remember our first game, Little League. It was great. He goes, Dad gave you that glove. You're hanging out. Maybe it was that guy Mark that wasn't married that hung out at the park a lot that gave you the glove. Anyway, you go. That was your lead-in?
What team was Pooh Richardson on? Minnesota?
Minnesota, yeah. Wasn't it?
I remember one night Minnesota played somebody, and I was at a bar, and I actually left the bar because whatever time the Sports Center was coming on, I wanted to be there for the Sports Center just because I was so excited for him to do the Pooh Richardson highlights. Remember when Kilmer
Pooh,
doing Pooh? There was
scream.
like this year-long thing. So anyway, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, but not your Vitas, not my Vitas. He's our Vitas.
So you used to
Kilborn
bother.
was my guy.
Yeah.
So, but here's what we learned: if there were guys we didn't like, we would leave them voicemails because you could get to their direct voicemail. You would call
You would heckle
ESPN.
them?
Yeah, we'd call them. We'd be hammered. We'd get home. So if nobody hooked up, we'd be sitting there eating subs in Burlington, Vermont. It'd be 2:30, and you go, get me on the blower, and you get a home phone there, and you had a hotline, and then you'd get directly to their voicemails. So we used to crush guys. Remember one of the biggest ones? We used to get mad at Rich Eisen for doing a Hartford Whalers accent, and we go, whoa, dude, there's no accent in Connecticut. There's none. There's no Whalers. There's no, back off. And we would let him know.
He would do a Hartford Whalers accent?
Yeah, he did this weird thing when he did a Whalers highlight where he would do this kind of accent.
That's ludicrous.
And all of the guys, once all the guys in school knew you could just call and leave direct voicemails. So you're right. So the general point that the stuff that you deal with where it's constant. The only thing, I don't care if somebody rips me or is just mean. I only care when it's somebody saying I said something that I did not say. And, the Chip Kelly thing was a big deal for me last week because...
I don't know because I never follow this stuff.
Yeah,
what happened?
Well, Stephen A. had suggested that people were talking about... Right.
Yeah.
It'd be kind of hard to miss that one. And I don't know if it's because I've met Chip a bunch of times and I love him because he's a New England guy, and I also think he's one of the smartest football people going around. I can't really back the Sam Bradford thing and then all the running backs. But prior to that...
$21 million for DeMarco?
Yeah. Oh, and we also have Ryan Matthews, who's never seemed to finish games.
Yeah.
But... prior to that, when you go Macklin, McCoy, Deshaun, I mean, it's 2015. We were sitting here arguing why Deshaun fits into a team or not. I mean, come on. But then when the race thing was brought up, and then you kind of do it in a way where it's presenting it, but what you're really doing is you're asking, is race a factor in the way Chip Kelly's keeping Riley Cooper and getting rid of these other guys? And I started saying, well, look, Riley Cooper's $8 million guaranteed on a 5-year deal, which is peanuts in today's NFL. And the base escalates, but he's a big guy, blocks on the outside, it's important in the chip system, all this stuff. And then that turns me into, figures, Russillo, racist. And that's when you go
white guy from Boston,
right? White
Riley
guy from
Cooper.
Boston, right? Absolutely. Chris Mullen's my favorite college player ever.
Yep.
Barkley's my favorite athlete ever. So that kind of trumps the Mullen one, but. That's when the social media stuff I think it's hard to every day never be bothered by it.
Well, you must deal with this doing the radio show.
It's bad, man. It's really we've talked about this before,
Yeah.
but I think all of us as hosts are doing this thing where we're kind of like check in on it, and it's as if you're writing a story and posting it before it's done, and then asking for feedback on a paragraph.
But it's not the right feedback a lot of the time because I've heard ESPN radio hosts. It's like I was in a conversation over the break with people on Twitter about this, and it's like. And then
some guys will have the deck up while they do the show,
right? But it'll be like, and these people think, and then it's like, just because Hot Pants 69 agreed with your Riley Cooper take doesn't mean that was the right. Whatever, I don't know.
I feel like
I wouldn't look on Twitter if I was doing a radio show.
Yeah, but we do it, man.
You can't.
It's
You shouldn't.
No, I try to stop myself sometimes.
You guys should make a pact.
A wolf pact?
Just stick to your guns. What do you care what people on Twitter say about it?
For the most part, we're pretty good about it. But the other thing is that every now and then when you're a little dry on topics,
well, then a
guy will go, people are saying, and you'll be like, this one guy had a terrible take, and you're like, I can get 7 minutes out of this. So that's the selfish part of it.
How many times does that happen a week? You're like, we got to get 8 minutes.
Well, Cowherd's whole show is based on it.
Yeah, but Cowherd always has an angle for each segment. He's like, this is the segment where I come up where I talk about my weird theory about this.
Right, and if you listen to him,
that's actually why I like that show.
No, everybody thinks Colin and I don't like each other. We actually do really like each other, and I think what he does,
him too.
What he does is harder than what anybody else does.
Well, you and I both think it's a weird talent. I've said this to him. To be able to go solo for 15 hours a week.
It's the hardest thing to do. And the funny thing is,
impossible.
I guess
I can't even do intros by myself.
I've said that on the air a few times, and I guess a couple guys, I'm not going to name anybody, but some longtime Sports Center anchors were, I don't know if it was offended or they thought I was trying to pump myself up for what I do. but that, Russillo thinks that radio is the hardest thing to do. I go, no, not what I do sitting with Scott every day. Okay,
Yeah.
It's hard to every day be locked in and think you know what's going on, because Scott and I pride ourselves on watching a ton of games. And you don't want to sit there and start saying, Atlanta's not even going to make the playoffs. And you go, dude, are you kidding? Like those talk show hosts, you go, why do you even have the job if you clearly are this detached from sports?
EI would have that whenever they would try to talk about hockey in the 90s. There was like this 1 week window where they all had to pretend they were following what was going on with the Bruins. Well, as long as Andy Moog's gonna,
They go as far as Moog will take them.
It was like they don't say these hockey cliches. You knew they weren't watching.
So whenever I think about Cowherd, I go, I did a lot of solo over the years, and the industry's getting away from it because it's so hard. It's so hard to find guys that truly are for 3 hours a day without any gimmicks, just to be interesting. So what Cowherd does is the hardest thing, and some people took it as me somehow insulting other elements of it. And I go, you know what? I've done a bunch of different things. I've never really been a traditional anchor, but I've had to anchor stuff. I've had to write for a deadline, which is brutal. I've had to do analyst work, which is the easiest thing to do, really. I mean, if you care about watching the game for 2 hours, you're sitting in a room and then you go out on the desk, like figure a few things out and point it out. But Cowherd's awesome, but he has insane theories, and he and I argue in the hallway all the time.
Yeah. He has insane theories, but he goes in every show thinking, these are the 10 insane theories I'm going to say today. I think that's a talent.
You have to kind of have that weirdness in you to be able to say every day for 3 hours by yourself, I'm gonna be worth listening to. I mean, I've had segments where I'm by myself halfway through it going, you're terrible right now, dude. You're awful. Stop talking.
Well, it's like 2 minutes in, 2 minutes in, with 5 minutes to go, and you went down the wrong path with some, and then you got to sell it.
Coming
up, I'm going to explain to you why the NBA is like Seinfeld. Right after this, and you come back, it's like, so the Spurs are George Costanza. It's like, no, this isn't working. Oh no, he's got 7 guys to go. Oh God.
Tiago Splitter's a lot like Banya, and here's why.
Please, just audible.
Yeah.
Can a trade happen right now?
Yeah, because your producer's going, all right, we got to go in another direction. You're like, I got all these index cards, though.
I wrote these down in the
break. I haven't even gotten to Elaine yet. Look, my first tryout, and this is a long thing, but I'm not going to do it here, but I got laid off in Boston. It was awesome because I turned down a couple other gigs. I was going to stick around at the station. I was finally going to be able to pay my bills,
Yeah.
And it was like, wow, I'm going to make, finally a decent amount of money, get a new car, because I was broke, man. Broke in this business. And they were so dirty to me. It was Sporting News. They, like, here's your contract. Here are the terms. We're psyched to have you be a part of this. Month goes by, the papers never show up, and I call, and a guy, I'll never forget, he started waving a stack of papers in the phone in the background. He's like, it's right here. We're just crossing the T's and dotting the I's.
They were the worst.
And a week later, I get laid off.
Yeah.
And it was the greatest thing that ever happened to me. Now I'm freaking out because I finally thought I was, actually going to be able to pay bills, go on a vacation, when you're not making money in this thing, it's bad. And I went down to ESPN and I tried out and I did 2 hours solo. And they asked me, they go, have you ever done solo before? I go, yeah, all the time, man. Never had done it. So
I would never be able to do it. I would lose my mind, and I think it's a really weird talent. But I always judge all radio shows by, am I jealous of the points they're making? Do I hear a point every once in a while I wish I had thought of? Is there an angle? I'm different. I'm not saying I'm normal. I'm just like,
no.
Did somebody say an angle where
I get mad when I hear a great point about something where I go, I should have thought of that.
Yeah,
so you're absolutely right.
I judge everything by that, and it's like, if I'm listening to a radio show and I'm not hearing any points that I wish I had thought of, I'm not going to listen to the show. I think it's weird to listen to a show that you don't like, or
hate listen.
Yeah, like hate listening is just so weird. Driving your car, you're going to hate listen to a show. It's just weird. Just
I'm
turn
not
the
in a
channel.
bad enough mood yet. Let me get something that'll really bum me out.
These guys are going to make me mad. But I think a lot of people in Boston would hate listen to the radio stations.
Absolutely.
I think people hate listen to Felger and Maserati.
Yeah, see, I know Felger really well.
No,
so
I think they do a good job, and I think people like listening to them, but I also think people listen to them because Felger makes them really mad, and I think he knows it, and sometimes he'll troll them.
He absolutely
knows it. And he's like playing all those people like a cello.
I spent a lot of time with Felger when we used to work up at Comcast. So we'd have these stretches where we do the early show. You do the 6:30, and then you stick around and do the 11. So I'd go to the Burlington Mall by myself. I'd give it food. I'd come back. I'd watch a game. And I always really liked him, but he was the kind of guy every now and then he'd be like, all right, you can leave the office now. He was kind of like, he wanted to just hang out and do some paperwork. He didn't want to have to talk sports all the time. And I'm going, man, can you believe that screen that he's going,
Yeah, it's good. Let's take a break.
Yeah, let's take a little break from this. And I remember I was complaining about the industry. I go, it's just one day when I grow up, I'm just going to say crazy stuff, and then everybody's going to love me and say how talented I am.
Yeah.
And he goes, you ever think that maybe your thing's never going to work out because you want to take it so seriously and you want everything to make sense and you want to be rational all the time? And some of the best guys, the most successful guys in this business will tell you the best thing you can do is just be incredibly wrong to get all this attention. So I don't think that Felger says I want to be incredibly wrong.
Big swings.
Right. I think he's the guy that goes, can I get a show out of this take today that's against? And it's so easy to do it in Boston too. When you decide to be, even though he's been there forever, he's still seen as the outsider because the guy was in Wisconsin. But I really like him as a guy. So even when I'll hear him say something that drives me crazy, working with him all those years, I go, oh, I know what he's doing.
But
so I can't ever get mad
yeah,
anymore.
that's the thing.
Right.
But why don't the listeners know what he's doing? And Boston's been like this it was there the entire time I was there.
But we are the capital of the hate watch, hate listen.
But the Boston people, the Boston shows, it was like even like the Patriots would win the Super Bowl. And then the next day it would be like, somebody would come on the radio and be like, and I remember listening to the radio when this happened. Somebody came on like, I don't care. They still didn't make the right decision with Bledsoe and Brady. Like, she's going right in. It's like, They just won the Super Bowl.
Right. That's
what are you talking about?
When you have the guy the next day goes, okay, that was a great run, but this is not sustainable.
Right. It's just the turn the punch bowl wet blanket guy.
I remember
and Boston media is just full of them.
We had Emmett Smith on doing NFL stuff, and it was the year after the Pats had lost to the Giants the first time to go 18-1. And he came on and he goes, I think the Patriots learned that attack offensively needs a little bit more balance this time around. Yeah, okay. You're going, what are you talking about? They went like 18-1. Okay, they lost on 2 ridiculous plays in the same play. They were pretty good.
Yeah,
but the connection that I think you and I have, and I'm not from Boston the way you are. I lived there. I'm from Massachusetts, but
you logged like your
that's kind of where I
post college.
8 years I was there, maybe, or
you need to be there in your 20s to really get it. I feel like when you're smart.
26 to 33. Yeah, I'm trying to think about it on the top of my head because the first 3 years I worked at ESPN, I drove back and forth because I wasn't doing it every day. So I'd live in a hotel down there, then I'd come back up and get a million parking tickets because I was parking my car at 4 in the morning on Common Ave. So that was fun. But when you think about the stuff, like we start as guys from that area. You start by hating everything first, right? And you think about it. If you're from that area, and I think other guys do this around the country, but you look at a girl and you go, okay, could I get her? Then you look at every guy and you're like, could I take him? That's where you start. So I'm like, okay, if I had to fight that guy, how would I do? And then you go, okay, this is my friend Todd. And you're like, he's got kind of a big neck. Like, all right, well, maybe I'd have to get him good once from the right side.
Baggy shirt. I can't tell how he's built.
Right. And then, 30 minutes later, you kind of get past that.
See, I never had that DNA, though, but my buddy J-Bug, we would be at bars, and occasionally, like, some guy would sit down with us, especially, like, when we were in Charlestown, and the Bug would just kind of gradually do this. He'd just be holding onto his glass, and I'd always be like, why are you doing that? It's like, hey, you never know.
You never know.
He'd have this
Who's
or
ready
the
to use a
bottle.
glass?
Or the bottle, or whatever, just like... just before, as he sized him up.
Well, that's a whole other switch.
And then
like if you're
Bud
starting to use
take,
glassware,
Well, just to make sure, because he didn't know, if you get somebody who's drunk.
Yeah, but you're
when
smart.
He took the
you're
hand
smarter
off
than
the
I am. So
I've somehow never been really cold cocked or punched, but there's still time.
There's still time. We can go out tonight.
Bill Don't Lie is wrapping up. I think this is it. We just did 10 minutes on the Boston radio media scene.
Right.
It is amazingly unhappy, though. God, it's so sordid.
It's a good fallback for you and I, though. If this goes really badly, there's some decisions the next few years. Like you and I would be like Simmons and the kid, 50 years old, and then we're going. I still think Adrian Griffin's one of the most underrated players in NBA history.
I'm waiting till my 50s. Triumphant return. Like right near the end, I'll have like a bad hairpiece. I'll somehow lose my hair. I'll have like a big swoop.
I'm already there. Yeah, it'd be great.
We'll have matching hairpieces.
Yeah, we could sit there and have pre-show meeting at the four. We'd be live from the fours.
Oh yeah, with Troy Brown.
Get ready for Bruins training camp.
Now, what current Patriot would be on that show now?
Oh, okay, yeah. You got to think of them.
It'll be like Dominique Easley 20 years from now.
I could see Stork, center.
That's a good one.
7-8 year career.
Gronk will be on. Gronk could be a legend by that point.
I feel like Gronk's going to have more opportunities.
Zolak's not negative, right? Isn't Zolak like half decent from a positivity standpoint?
Yeah, You know,
I feel like I'd like Zolak if I lived there.
I like Zolak as a guy. I've met him a few times, and I think he's great on the broadcast because even though he's an incredible homer, it's so passionate that it feels a little more genuine. Whereas
I like that.
Some of the NBA nights where you're watching League Pass, you just go, like League Pass, bad team, home announcers selling you on the future is the bane of my existence right now.
I heard Joel. I watched the Pelicans game last night with Joel Myers announcing.
Do you think Joel brings it more when it's fan night for Tuesday?
No question.
I notice a peak.
Anthony Davis made the game-tying shot or go-ahead shot from like 18 feet. And Joel's like, it's a 3! And the other guy was like, that wasn't, I think that was actually a 2. He's like, no, it's a 3. The referee had his hand up. They changed the score to 2 points, and they're like, let's look at a replay. And he's like, no, it was the 3. Watch the replay. The referee has his hands up. It's like, Joel, can you just tell us if it was 2 or 3? Local announcers are the best. I think Sean Grandy's going to murder somebody soon that he doesn't have a local announcing job. Like, he'd literally be one of the 5 best announcers. He's period, awesome. National, local, anything. And then you have Joel Myers calling an 18-footer a 3.
Look, Grandy, you know, we're both huge fans, and whenever you listen to his lead-ins,
he's the best. He writes his own
when they're terrible, too, when they've had some bad stretches, and he goes, tonight, the Milwaukee Bucks return, and if you remember, February 4th, the last time they met, and you're just going, John Salmon's got free, and you're like, man, I actually might listen to this. Yeah. This is, what? Who's playing
ironic.
Tonight? Yeah.
So, wait, last thing. Who do you think's going to the finals right now if you had to bet on 2 teams?
Cleveland, Golden State.
I think I would still go Atlanta, Golden State.
I love that you're saying Atlanta. And I'm telling you, I'm not convinced of it.
How many times in sports, especially the last 10 years, have we seen the nobody believes in us team? I know I've written about it a million times, but I think Atlanta has nobody believes in us potential. They're going to go into that Cleveland series. They're going to have home court advantage.
Yeah, but doesn't every team believe no one believes in them?
No, but that one especially. It's going to be like, oh, the Hawks, they have home court advantage, and they're 4-1 underdogs. Nobody's giving him a chance.
No, that'll be a justified one.
That'll be a real.
It won't be Rodney Harrison after the Eagles Super Bowl win and going, no, everybody counted us out. You're like, actually, you were favored and everybody
half of them are idiotic.
Right.
But like when the Giants beat the Patriots, that was a good nobody believes in us. But I think the Hawks against the Cavs, that would be my fear if I'm a Cavs fan. I'm overconfidence.
I'm a toss-up right now on those two. You asked me to answer the question. I gave it to you. I could do that classic.
Memphis.
Well, I picked Cleveland at the beginning of the year. So
I had Memphis, but I told everyone I was going to keep changing my mind. Memphis, I don't like the way they've looked the last 2 weeks.
It's okay to change your mind.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I told him, listen, I'm going to change it again. Right now I have Atlanta Golden State. I could change it tomorrow. Ryen Russillo, SVP and Russillo. What's the actual time it's on? I know it's on the West Coast.
That's disappointing, man.
No, what's the time it's on I know is it, I don't know. It's on, I'll just know when it's on here when I'm driving to work.
I know how to download Grantland articles.
Is it 10? No. Kyler's on 10-1. So you guys are 1-4?
Yeah, nice work.
But it's 10-1 here.
Yeah, that's all right. I mean, it's not time travel. It's just 3 hours. It's been that way for a while.
I know, but I'm like...
That was good. You got it. You were on the spot there, too.
1-4.
Yeah.
And then you're going to
You want to come on all the time during the playoffs?
Yeah.
Let's be better at that, because you and I are bad, and then you're on with Colin because they're more organized than I am.
No, you know what? It all depends on what I'm doing at the time, and sometimes I'll be driving home from coffee, and I'll hear Colin with some guest that I just didn't like, and I'll just text him, and I'll be like, I'm your best guest. And then I'm on in like 20 minutes. I'll text that to you.
Do that for us.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Sad SVP for me. Bill Don't Lie. We'll be back. iTunes with a real art and everything next week. Check out for that, and check out Grantland.
So I get to sign off. Whoa!
Thank you for downloading the BS Report with Bill Simmons.
Too much fun.
Check out more podcasts at the iTunes Music Store or at Pod Center at ESPNradio.com.
Peace out.